do a lot more of these longer leaders recent years, and you know, you can see that that one's quite long. It's at least 8 feet. But these diver buddies are quite nice. So it basically slides onto the diver. Okay, it has a little pin in there, and you just take your release part of the diver and slide it in there underneath that pin. Oh, just gotta do this, and then you slide it on top of the fin of the diver. Just get this slide up here. There we go. And then now you can clip it in place so it won't fall off. Okay. And then you just wrap this. And it has these little slots here, so at the end of your leader, you can put the snap release. There's snap swivel into it. And it's ready to go.
Sale in the store here? Or?
So I talked to Mark. Mark's going to be looking at getting these in. There it is. Nice and clean. And now you're not dealing with a kinked leader. One of the biggest things is a kinked leader when you wrapped it around whatever it is that you want to do to store these things. Now it's nicely put. They come in different colors, orange and green for an example. So if you want port and starboard, now you got that identified. You have all your divers for port, or and then green and red. I'm sorry?
Whereabouts did you get them?
He's been doing a number of the different shows, but Mark and I approached him at the Woodstock show.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
You know if they have those for double rigs, if you're running like a spoon and a body bait behind your diver?
A spoon and a body bait behind the diver.
Yeah.
I don't never. So I'm not sure what you mean by that. Generally, it's just one bait that you have behind the diver. Yeah. Basically, running multiple baits would be, you know, make a bit of a mess. Unless you're talking about running a leader above the diver. I've heard of that before. I'm not a fan of that. It's a bit of a mess and a lot of confusion.
One other point on divers, while we're on the topic too, is so when I'm running flashers, I'm running 40-pound test, and I'm running, typically we run 40-pound Andy or 40-pound big game. I don't run fluorocarbon when I'm running flashers. The way I look at it is, you know, I can save the money, but yeah, that and you know, you got your flasher and another 6 feet there. I don't think the fish is too worried about looking what's in front of the diver. When I'm running spoons, I'm running 20-pound fluorocarbon. Right, and the other point about that is too, I eliminate as much terminal tackle as I can. When I tie my divers, I tie them directly. So in the morning if I'm going out, I'll tie right on the back of that diver, directly onto my snap. And so basically we have divers set up for spoons and we have divers set up for flashers. When I'm setting up divers for flashers, one good quality snap, ball bearing snap, okay? And then for the spoons, again, tie directly, and I'm usually using Fish USA's number 3s myself. I know Torpedo makes a good leader too. But again, just trying to eliminate that extra terminal tackle. I try to do that all the time too with my, so I take all my spin doctors, I take off the snap on the front because all my lines have the snap on it. So I'm not going to double snap. So now when I hook that up to my diver, bang, it's good to go. On my rigger rods, we're running 30-pound big game on my rigger rods, and those are strictly, I got your rigger rods and then you got your spoon rods. I know not everybody has that, but and again, we're just tying a snap onto that rigger rod and then hooking that into there. So I'm not dealing with these extra snaps all the time or changing them out. Just something to keep in mind.
I often get the question about scale down to 20-pound fluoro. I'm often using a snubber. Okay, it protects from those break-offs, especially on those big hard hits. But I don't, just like Darryl was showing, when I'm running a 40 or 50-pound leader between my diver and the big flasher, or even an 8-inch flasher, I'm not using a snubber. I don't know if you use a snubber.
I don't use a snubber at all, but that, you know, that makes a lot of sense for your spoons.
For spoons,
We
yeah.
just kind of set the drag accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be a little lighter for running spoons and shorter leads, yeah.
Absolutely. I have actually two different diver rod actions. I see that you have the Telora, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a stout rod, excellent for flashers on your divers. You know, it's got a lot of pulling power in being able to, you know, to handle that kind of a crushing blow. With the 40-pound test fluoro, or in this case monofilament with some stretch, you have additional give. When I'm running my spoon divers, I'm generally using a slightly lighter action diver rod, and I'm using the old Blue Diamond. And the Blue Diamonds, the back in the day, are different than today's Blue Diamond. Those old Blue Diamonds were more glass and very slow action, very whippy, and they were excellent at spoon divers. I found a lot less breakoffs. It's really good that way. There was a question.
No, I was just, sorry, yeah, I was just wondering, like, do you find that with the rubber thing, that you get less breakoffs with your spoons?
Yeah, in general, that's the case. Often too, the biggest reason why we lose a lot of, okay, so here we're talking a lot more about rainbow trout and coho salmon, okay? So rainbow trout and coho salmon on spoons up high in the water column, they are very aggressive. They'll hit the bait and they'll often be out of the water, and there's a lot of slack line, tight line, very, very rapid action that will end up shaking hooks. So that bungee, or that release, that rubber snubber, will be kind of a shock absorber to all of that that's happening at the same time. Kings, a little bit different. They'll hit, and it's just a constant pull, and steady pull that often keeps them pinned. But a rainbow and a coho, they're just frantic. You'll even see the diver rod go like this and then back again, right? Like, it happens so fast. And that's that slack line that gets them off almost all the time. So that rubber snubber is trying to keep that tight, right? And reduce the amount of chances of slack between the diver and the fish.
You're running behind your diver.
Again, it could be as little as 5-7 feet or 10, 12 feet. You'll find that the activity level of the fish will indicate what they want. If you're starting to see these fish coming in, and this is kind of maybe getting a little bit more into reading your graph, but you see these fish coming into the riggers and they disband and they didn't want your riggers, but they're also not going on your divers, you may need to stretch your divers out a little bit to see if you can get them to bite on that. Yeah. Yep. Question back there.
So you're down 100 feet with a mag diver, you've got an 11-inch paddle,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a Twinkie rig, you got, like, there's a lot there.
You got a lot going on.
You gotta have the drag so you don't lose everything.
Yep.
Controlling it. Then you get hit by a salmon.
Yep.
What do you do to your drag?
Yeah, so it generally, for me, it's kind of that hair trigger. I wanted to make sure that it's going to have the right tension, that immediately I'll hear it, right? And it'll give me a chance to grab the rod and pull it out of the. So I have the salties, so it's an easy way of getting them. But if you have tubes, then you're talking about getting a diver rod out like this with that fish really pulling and pumping. It's tough to do. On a salty, I can pull it out like this and then keep tension. Am I going to tighten it? Not necessarily. Yeah, 99% of the time with those big kings, you got an initial run that you got to wait out first. So they're going to be buzzing line off first, and you can always feather that spool as well with your thumb, just slightly. It's going to get warm sometimes, but don't. I really don't like a tight drag. Really don't like a tight drag, especially at the start. If you start to see that fish is, a little more tame, you can tighten it slightly, but really just be very cautious. There's other ways of gaining line too, guys. You're not talking about just winching on a fish, right? You want them to go, and let them burn themselves out first. And the other thing is, you're not stuck in one place in your boat. If you have a clear side and you're able to start turning the boat, you're now gaining line just by the boat, not necessarily on your reel. Okay? So you're able to gain without pulling drag while the guy that's on the wheel is starting to turn. I love when you get a big king and you get it on the corner of the boat, the back of the boat, and the guy's pulling on a 45, and that the captain knows to make that circle around that fish. You're gaining line without pulling a whole lot on your drag.